How are you today? Hi, welcome back. Thanks for joining us live and for joining us for replays for Impossible Live. Love to welcome you back and to say hi. Let us know where you're joining us from today and who are great introductions for you and ways that we can help you in between our next upcoming lives. One of the things I'd love to thank you for is for your feedback in a recent poll. So we updated a poll that we had a while ago, and the poll was asking, which are you, an ambivert, an introvert, an extrovert, or an omnivert? And I really have to thank you for popping into the poll and for helping us update some amazing stats with how we're feeling currently about how we show up in business. And this toast is for you as you're celebrating, relaxing, reemerging, vacationing, or just chilling. So, in a previous session, we talked about introverts, and today we're talking about ambiverts and omniverts. And what are those? So, ambiverts appear to adapt easily in most situations. They have a perfect blend of extrovert and introvert styles. And omniverts can appear to be quiet, reserved, fearless, and outgoing. And they may vary between opposite extremes, being introverts at some time and extroverts at others. In the process of researching and diving deep on the topic, and I appreciate a lot of amazing professionals who've been sharing all sorts of style links and quizzes. I really enjoy them, and I have to thank you so much for them. And Andrea, welcome back. It is great to see you again, and thanks for popping in and for your incredible support. I am looking forward to Andrea's first year celebration of Tony and Organics and to joining her next week, and excited because I just got my first amazing order from Stellar Andrea, who hopefully will put her link in for Tony and Organics so you can help find some delicious gifts for yourself, or you can also help others find great reliefs. And she's got delicious teas and oils and, ooh, just a cool website. And hey, PQ Godfather Phil, thank you so much for popping in. And one of the interesting things about talking about ambiverts and omniverts, because basically they're both a mix of introverts and extroverts. And in the process of diving deep, finding out that there are so many types of introverts and there's other types of extroverts. We can have outgoing introverts. We can have antisocial extroverts. You can have social introverts. And it's kind of an interesting blend to be able to switch back and forth. Hey, Angie, how are you? Welcome, welcome. And Angie and Phil are here. PQ in the house. So that helps me tap into one of the big ahas. And I really have to thank Angie for sharing a saboteur's assessment with me last winter, and thank Phil for introducing me to the positive intelligence community this year, which is why I call Phil my PQ godfather. But one of the things that I would love to talk about is, as we're moving ambiverts and omniverts in between introvert and extrovert, and because of them, I'm so grateful to, hey, Catherine, how are you? To thank them for introducing me to a way to move a little bit easier in between introverts and extroverts. And I realized for me, it's situational. It's based on the role that I'm in. I'm really an introvert at my core, but the longer and more experience between events and coaching and hanging out in global marketplaces, I am now a trained ambivert. That means that my Gloria Zoom blanket in virtual settings is usually very close by for times when the introvert can just chill out at her core. And if you hand me a mic, I'll take a deep breath and a long sip of water. And now I'm a little bit more comfortable switching into that introvert part. But something that's helped me learn how to switch back and forth, which is the pace changing. Because for ambiverts, it's a little bit easier. Go back and forth between introvert and extroverts. But for omniverts, it takes some energy. And I really was stuck in an omnivert state for a bit. So what I love is positive intelligence and mental fitness and the building of the daily practice of moving from, let's call it left brain to right brain. So in our left brain, that's where our 10 saboteurs kind of have a field day or a party. They can kind of help us stay in a deeper cave with some negative emotions. And in our right brain, it's where in mental fitness, our sage powers live. It's our happier place of processing positive emotions, using some really cool empathy tools and really tapping into our empathy circuitry. And I think for me, it's become a little bit easier now, thanks to the daily practice of positive intelligence. What does this mean for you? It may mean as an ambivert that it's really easy for you to accommodate and be in every role. And I'll use another interesting example. As an omnivert, I hosted a Be Visible social media event. It was my second hybrid event. And I was delighted to have, it was on social media. So I had six amazing presenters presenting live in Rose Morello's beautiful office. And we filmed it. And I was sitting right near the podium where the presenters were, right near the mics that they were putting on, right in the place where they were settling in for their notes. And it was my event. And I never once stood behind the podium. That was an omnivert day. I hung out in front of my laptop with the Zoom guests who were joining us virtually. And it was a 3-hour event with a little bit of a break, and delighted to pick up amazing gems from the wonderful, wonderful presenters. And it didn't catch me until I looked at the video replay, probably a month later. And in between, I was diving in and hanging out and having fun with my notes and taking great tips on how to interact better on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram, on how to use different calls to connect to reach people. I was really deliberate and taking my notes in that lane. And the funniest part was I never appeared on camera once in a 3-hour event that I hosted. Not once. It was a choice, and I didn't realize it until a month later when a client's asking me about the replay. They're like, I hear your voice. I never saw you. It was a real reminder that as an omnivert, we kind of can choose how we show up, when we show up. The funniest part about it was I could hear my voice clearly. You could see me interacting. Hey, Chris, how are you? Thanks for popping in again. You could see me interacting or hear me interacting with the presenters. You could hear me interacting with the people on Zoom. It was, I guess, my precursor to Clubhouse. And it was the real reminder that as an omnivert, I was kind of stuck a little bit in the analysis paralysis or in the perfection paralysis. Maybe my lipstick wasn't perfect that day. Maybe for whatever reason, I definitely greeted everyone who was there live. And I definitely greeted everyone who was there in a virtual setting. So I was in both settings in a hybrid environment, but I never appeared on camera. And it's, as an omnivert, there's a little bit of a hesitancy sometimes between which lever we're in. We really can appear to be total opposites. And people who are there live, nobody said, "Hey, Mel, come get on camera, come say hi to your guests." No one said, "Hey, Mel, move from behind the computer." And I never ever thought about it. And I think it's for Omniverse, it's really situational how we change our pace. I was definitely engaged. I was definitely present. I realized that that month later, I was processing my notes that I had taken in a social learning setting, and I was applying them as a solitary learner. It was kind of an interesting thing because you can get caught in that analysis paralysis or in the perfection paralysis. And I just wanted to mention that in terms of the saboteurs, because omniverse actions and traits change based on our surroundings. And it can also change based on our roles. So if you think of an ambivert, it's the middle ground between an introvert and an extrovert. And there's not just one way to be an introvert. There's not just one way to be an extrovert. And we'll continue to have these discussions because I'm having so much fun exploring them with you. And thank you for your help. And you're helping me also remember to share our poll results. If you're on my LinkedIn profile, there's a poll, and I'll share the link a little bit later. But what I learned from the poll was last year when I shared it, the first poll combined ambiverts and omniverts. And this time tried to work harder to get it right. And I separated them. So in last year's poll, introverts were about 10% of the poll results. Extroverts were about a quarter of the poll results. And 50% answered they were an ambivert or an omnivert. And I created a new category last year called a trailblazer for that person who will say, "I do not fit in the mold." And the really cool part, 12% of our poll responders actually fit in that category. But this year, the results are a little bit different. There's more introverts in the world. There's more extroverts in the world. But the majority have answered 44% are ambiverts and 10% are omniverts. So as you're in a business setting and we're observing each other, whether it's screen energy on a virtual situation, whether it's in-person energy or roles, whether it's choosing how we're moving around between that left brain and that right brain, I think the hardest part is the environment part that we're in business or in social situations is choosing which style we're bringing to the table. So as you're in a meeting wondering why someone's not necessarily raising their hand, who can appear to be the life of the party sometimes, or sometimes has a lot to say, really take a breath sometimes. And as opposed to getting frustrated because you're not necessarily getting what I like to call feed forward, as opposed to feedback, and feed forward because we're all trying to move with traction to kind of keep moving, is to maybe say that person's really looking at something internally that they're not necessarily comfortable in sharing at the moment, and to give them time and to give them space to really come back and contribute at their highest level at a later date. They might need to think about it. They may be overthinking it. There may be a lot of stimuli in the area. And in some cases, presentations or facts, they're not really geared towards our learning style. And it makes it harder to shift back as omniverts in a given situation. The interesting part is that extreme part, navigating, can really be challenging. And the omniverts and the introverts, they're a reasonable part of they're 25% of the survey results so far. So if you're the ambivert, and I think now for me, the changing roles at the live and the virtual events is really what helped me learn to start adapting in a wider variety of surroundings. But at my events, most of my strategic alliance would say that I'm an extrovert, but I have that tape from Be Visible social media to prove that the back seat part could definitely appear, and that is something that happens a lot with omniverts. If you're looking for more clues to this, I'd love to continue the discussion and invite you in to keep joining us. But to think that these are examples of how we change our pace. It's situational. It's based on our roles, whether we're the facilitator, whether we're the team member, whether we're the volunteer. In some cases, you may be co-chairing. It may be a committee situation, or you might be at a gala, or it's your turn in a team presentation. And that's what dictates and changes how you shift or change your roles. But that pace part, that building a rhythm, I'm grateful that mental fitness is helping me build a rhythm to move from the left brain to the right brain. It's helped me move to a gratitude space. It's helped explore the sage powers. If you're interested in learning more about this, please don't hesitate to reach out or to pop it in one of our threads or to reach out for a call. The thing that's challenging about it is we can't tell whether people are introverts or extroverts or ambiverts or omniverts at first glance. It takes time to build up the trust in the relationship, to really give ourselves a chance to think of our energies or to just show up regularly and allow each other the space and the grace to grow or express our opinions or to be a really good, deep, and active listener. But I'd love to thank you for joining us today, and especially to thank you for popping into the polls and into the series and just helping explore a little bit different ways we show up in business, different ways that are changing our pace or that are changing how we show up as ambiverts or omniverts or introverts or extroverts. And just really want to thank you for joining us today for Impossible Live and for popping in and for your comments and your support. And please, let's keep giving each other the space and the time that we need. In previous settings, someone asks a question and they're looking for an immediate answer. But it's just a reminder, it takes many of us much longer to process. Hey, Anna, how are you? Thank you for popping in and for your tremendous energy and for joining us. And I hope you stay safe, stay well, stay inspired, and stay in touch. And please have a magnificent day. Take great care.